Louisiana All-American Sports Show. 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 Louisiana. If the sports you wanna talk about, then listen to the hottest show that's coming out the South. It's Gerard, Hatfield, and Coach Perry Daniels, man. They're gonna sit you down and tell you all about the game and make it plain. 96.9 FM, that's the station. To hear the best sports talk show in the nation. Without hesitation, you should get with this and get your popcorn ready for you better not miss. Louisiana All-American Sports Show. Louisiana All-American Sports Show. Louisiana All-American Sports Show. Louisiana. It's Joker B. Check us out.
Woo, I'm just so fresh, so clean. Good morning, Baton Rouge. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous Saturday morning. It is a great day to be alive, great day to be out and about. And if you are, and in those cars, I hope you have your radio locked in today to the Louisiana All-American Sports Show here on 96.9 FM WHYRLP, Baton Rouge Community Radio. This is, today's January the 16th, 2016, and you're locked in for the third edition in the year 2016 of the Louisiana All-American Sports Show. Good morning. I'm Eric Hatfield.
And I'm Gerard Piper, a.k.a. Joker P.
And I'm Coach Perry Daniels.
And we've got a whole lot of sports going on today, so we're going to skip some of the pleasantries and get straight to the action. Last night, the Louisiana All-American Sports Game of the Week took us out to Baker, Louisiana, as we brought a District 6-3A contest between the Baker Buffaloes and one of the best teams in District 6-3A, one of the best teams in 3A, period, the Port Allen Pelicans. And one axiom that has proven true over the years, over the decades in sports, that's in any sport, is you cannot underestimate home field advantage. When you're in anybody's house, especially a peer, especially a rival, you got to bring it. And that was kind of what we saw last night, Joker. The Port Allen Pelicans did win that game 67-60. I think anyone who follows high school basketball and follows that district would have expected Port Allen to win. But what I don't think anyone expected was that Baker, when this Baker team, when they got punched in the mouth, they came and punched right back, and punched back particularly hard in the fourth quarter. And what looked like it was turning into a blowout at one point turned into a game where the Pelicans barely escaped with their feathers intact.
Yes, it was a very competitive game at the end. At the beginning, I thought Port Allen, being the dominant team and being the team that was highly favored coming in, they tried a little bit too hard, and even Nigel Allen, which was our player of the Louisiana All-American Sports Player of the game, he even admitted to that after the game. He was saying that, these guys tried to kill Baker in the first, quarter, and they went out, and sometimes you can overcommit, you can try too hard, and, you have to have an even kill, and having adrenaline and having being hyped for a game can work against you if you don't know how to channel it the right way. But at the end of the day, I thought Baker had something to hang their hat on, because in the fourth quarter they was able to go on a little bit of a run. Coach Holmes, we talked to him after the game, and he said, I found my team in the fourth quarter, and that was in a defeat. And so I thought that was very telling. And I told him myself, just personally, we've covered them 3 different times, and I could see the progression from the first time that we've covered them. So I thought it was a good competitive game. Of course, Nigel Allen and the Franklin boys was a little bit too much for this team. And so, hey, the outcome was is what I thought it would be. Yeah.
Right, no, exactly. Coach Jamie Holmes is a guy, he was a coach at Family Christian Academy, which was a very competitive team in Class C. I want to say they made the top 28 a couple of times, but a very good team in Class C for years and years and years. Usually keeps a fairly even keel unless you really push his buttons. I actually saw a glow. I actually saw what looked like a smile on his face last night when he was talking, when I asked him about their effort in that fourth quarter. That's a team that put up 24 points in the fourth quarter against a Port Allen team that plays great defense and usually does not let anybody outrun them. So, Coach, I know you're familiar with, especially with Coach Holmes and really both these programs. I'm assuming you had a chance to catch the broadcast, or at least got briefed on what happened. I was wondering if you could share maybe a coach's perspective on yesterday's contest.
Well, the district is so extremely tough that, Coach Holmes said it on this show. It's like the ACC of Baton Rouge high school basketball. There's never an easy night, and Port Allen is at the top of that district year in and year out. So Coach Ricard does a fantastic job every year. So for Coach Holmes to have a emerging program like Baker is that competitive against the top of the district says a lot.
It absolutely does. I couldn't agree with you more, and it's just going to be a matter of time. I would like to say, I hope that the community kind of catches up with the progress of the program. I don't think there were I thought about 150 people. Joker said about 200, but for a Friday night game against a district rival, and there weren't any other major events going on in town or on television, I was a little disappointed with the attendance, and I know that Baker's basketball has been a little uninspiring the last few years. This is an improving team, and this is worth watching. So if you're in that Baker community, if you're nearby, if you just enjoy high school basketball, this is a program worth going to see, and that gym is gorgeous and comfortable. So there's no reason if you're a high school sports enthusiast to not come out and see these guys. As Perry pointed out, that district is the ACC of Baton Rouge high school basketball, and so you're going to get a good show. So they definitely deserve your support.
And I just want to say also, everything was great. The auditorium was great. The hospitality was great. But they need to change the price on their water.
Yeah, man.
How can water be bottled water $2?
It was
water. I can see $1, but $2.
Joker's like, hey man, you need some water. He comes back, he looks stunned in the parlor. I'm like, what's wrong? He said they charged me $2 for some water. Shoot, I can think of some fire water that costs less than $2 in a 40-ounce glass. Anyway, so yeah, look, that was like I said, good, solid night of basketball last night. We are efforting Nigel Allen, our Louisiana All-American Sports player of the game. Port Allen does play, I believe it's tournament play they have, right? Later on today. I know they play at 1 o'clock, so I know they got a tight schedule. Coach Ricard said the players had to be at school for 10:30, but he did say he would let Nigel call in, so I'm sure they're probably working somewhere in between their organized team activities, but nonetheless, very well deserved. One thing I noticed about the Port Allen Pelicans team last night, it really was a balanced effort. I personally, my vote was for Nigel Allen as player of the game. One, because he played a good game like he always does, but two, it was really so balanced, and there was really nobody that stood out above the rest, but over the course of time since we've been covering this team, he has stood out, and which is why I kind of gave him my vote, almost like in the Super Bowl when everybody plays a great game, so you kind of default to the quarterback. Right. That's kind of the situation there. It was really a balanced effort. I saw a lot of players in that Port Allen team rise up, and if they continue to develop and put the ball in the hoop and play defense like that, this could be the year they finally break through that ceiling and get into the top 28.
Yeah, man, and I just want to say also that the Port Allen team, Nigel Allen is the quarterback of that team. Mm-hmm. Right when the time they needed a big basket or the time they needed to really crank up the defense, he was the catalyst and he was the guy. So he's the guy that got my MVP vote, all day long. So great game. And also, man, shouts out to Noel Jackson.
Yeah. Satisfaction. Yeah, man.
Main man was in the house also. We got a chance to see him, and I want to tell you guys to tune in to him because he's got a special show here today. And so, Noel Jackson, shouts out to you, my boy.
Yeah, Noel was he of course is one of the jobs that helps pay the bills. He works at Baker High School, and we saw him last night. First of all, he helped us set up a lot, which was appreciated. Just great guy, great show. I think you'll enjoy it. It's very authentic. I think that's pretty much the praise I hear almost across the board for his show, and it's accurate. Other action in the Baton Rouge metropolitan area. First of all, be sure to tune in next Friday at 7 p.m. as we come right on back down to our own neck of the woods here in South Baton Rouge in the bottom, as the Dutchtown Griffins come to McKinley High School to face a very hungry McKinley Panthers team that has come up with some very talented team that's bitten the short end of the stick a couple of times this year and must be very hungry. They have a District 5-5A rival in Dutchtown coming in. We will be right there to bring the action to you live, up close and personal. Other action in the Baton Rouge metropolitan area in District 6-3A action, the Bruley Panthers, another program friend of the show in West Baton Rouge Parish, just put a hurting on West Feliciana, 64-48. So I think Coach Kirby Loop's message is finally being heard there. Christian Life, the Coach Dale just put a hurting on Santa Mar. That's a team out of 5-5A. Christian Life being a 2A school, 81-59, a real hurting there. So fantastic effort there by the Crusaders. In other action, Episcopal I kind of was kind of scratching my head here, but they beat Southern Lab. Coach Clark really had the team on the roll for a while, so not sure what happened there. But Episcopal defeats Southern Lab 64-59. Southern Lab had 3 players in double figures, so not sure how that happened there. Madison Prep against a resurgent McDonough 35 team out of New Orleans. Well, Madison Prep just laid the smackdown on them, 75-59. Josh Anderson had 19 points. Joshua LeBlanc, 13 points. Really a spectacular effort out there. And Madison Prep also got some effort behind the stripe. They had 4 3-point shots in that game. Justin Garner hitting 1 and Josh Anderson with 3. In other action around the area, Runnels defeated North Lake Christian 64-41. University High, Coach Adger just going to be taking his, what do you call it, your Maalox or your Tums. He said it's just strange. Glen Oaks beat Baker in their last game before Friday night. You thought they had like a little momentum going. They finished as strike at 3rd place in the East Baton Rouge boys basketball tournament. Ooh, but boy, when they faced the U-High Cubs, their District 6-3A rivals, the back to life, back to reality. It was real. U-High 69, Glen Oaks 39. Wade Sims dropped 25 points. Jalen Johnson with 22 points in that game. That's a hurting. Walker over Catholic 58-45 in that 4A district. I am not finding a score for the McKinley Panthers. I wanted to get that out there before we moved along. But anyway, as you can see, things are ramping up in the Baton Rouge area. I'm going to get that McKinley score for you guys in just a second. Here we go. We had McKinley.
What we got?
Over
McKinley won, right?
Oh yeah, they won. They put a hurting on St.
Okay.
No, whoa. That's a girls' game. That's not a boys' game. Not a boys' game. Let's.
So while you all looking, Glen Oaks finished 4th in the EBR tournament behind Bel Air.
That's right. My bad. Thank you, Coach. That's right. They lost to Bel Air in that consolation game. No, this is a girls' game. I don't have a boys' score on McKinley, so we'll effort that. We'll pull that up, and we'll let you know when we get that shortly. But speaking of McKinley High School, Joker.
Yeah, but speaking of McKinley High School, of course, we had a big historical event. President Barack Obama came to McKinley. I wish we would have had a hand clap. I don't have my hand clap ready for him, but definitely deserves a hand clap. And I was thinking, hey, you guys better win. If the president came to town, McKinley better win, because that's the presidential game. That's what I kind of look at it. But some other news that I got that I wanted to speak on also was the injured wide receiver Devin Gales with Southern University has finally got the feeling. Go ahead, Coach.
Before we transition out of high school, there's been a huge announcement from the LHSAA. And the executive director says that the LHSAA did not follow the Constitution when adopting the split system that they have currently, that they previously had in football. So you will no longer see what they call select and non-select football championships in LHSAA football forthcoming. From now on. Now they are considering maybe going to a rural metro type of system to where if you're outside of the city limits by so many miles and you have the advantage of getting every kid in the town to come to your school, you compete for a different championship than schools that are within the city limits and have to market themselves to attract students to come play football for them. So this is hugely significant, and we're going to make an attempt to see if we can get someone from LHSAA to join us next week to kind of unwrap this further.
Perry, Executive Director Eddie Bonine has really had to tackle some tough issues between the official situation and now this, which has been shrouded in controversy since it was conceived. But to his credit, he hasn't shied away from it, and he could have easily remained silent and let the current system go on as it is, and nobody would have said anything. But I believe from what I was reading in the newspaper and what I heard, I think Executive Director Bonine was the one that really took the ball and ran on this, and basically in the spirit of getting it right. is what my ultimate takeaway was on this, and we could certainly talk about the sub issues from here to Kingdom Come. But the bottom line is that Executive Director Bonine decided to get it right, and he really didn't have pressure. He didn't have to. He could have said nothing, and he did it. So I think we got what I'm seeing in his short tenure. It looks like we have some really strong leadership in the LHSAA, at least from these couple of tough, prickly cacti, so to speak, that he's had to tackle.
Okay.
And we do have McKinley Panthers played on Thursday night, which is why we do not have a score from Friday night. And they did hammer St. James by the score of 67-40. The Panthers will begin district play against Sanoma on Tuesday, and that should not be that tough of a contest. As like I said, Sanoma was destroyed by Christian Life Academy, and we will bring, of course, the district matchup next Friday to you here on 96.9 FM.
Man, well, I wanted Coach to kind of educate me on, I heard you say that he got it right. So are you saying that the current system that we had, and educate the listeners, do you agree with the decision? And will this affect smaller high schools? Or, break it down a little bit more for us.
Well, prior to going to this select, non-select format, Baton Rouge schools were not making it to the championship. And recently we've had a couple of Baton Rouge schools make it to the championship, with folks like Southern Lab winning the championship last year. So it's been advantageous now for Baton Rouge. Whether it's right or wrong, that's a different argument, a different conversation. But it has worked to the advantage of the schools in the metropolitan areas. So we'll see. I think that rural schools do have an advantage over metro schools.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, we'll see how it turns out and everything. And we do have another announcement here for the Martin Luther King Day, which is Monday, January the 18th, and that's celebrating Martin Luther King, and that'll be Martin Luther King Day. We're going to have a day of the murals on Main Street. And you can come and celebrate the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King by cleaning, gardening, and painting. We're going to have 3 different murals they're going to do here on Main Street. It's going to be a big event, be part of history. All ages are welcome. You can report or meet up in the areas of Main Street and 10th. That's under the I-110 bridge, or Main Street and 22nd at the Sacred Heart School lots. And it's going to be food and beverage available. And, hey, man, you can come on out and volunteer. It's going to be a great day, and we're going to be able to celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So come on out and support your community.
That's from 7 a.m. until 3 p.m. on this coming Monday.
Yes, indeed, man. And on another note, we was talking earlier about injured wide receiver Devin Gales regaining feeling in his knees and in his foot, great. Man. I thought that was great. I saw that story, and I just kind of wanted to get that out there, that all of the support and the outpouring of support that came in from over the nation, over the country. I think all of that energy and all those prayers and everything helped, man. And it does work. And so I just want to give a big push up, and we want to keep giving our support to him and the Southern University family. And keep in mind that the spinal injuries, especially when folks are fortunate enough to recover, the treatment and the rehabilitation can be in the high 6 up to low 7 figures in terms of total cost. And the Devin Gales Fund is helping assist the family with medical expenses. If you visit gojagsports.com, GOJAGSPORTS, gojagsports.com, there's a link to the Devin Gales Fund. Anything is appreciated. I believe the starting donation is $25, but they will take whatever you can afford to donate. So please do so. I did. I think I gave an on-the-air pledge, and Joker doubled it for me. So I decided to follow, but I did follow through with that. And then they're gonna need your help. I mean, it's tragic, and it's inspiring to watch him come back. But with that inspiration come cost. So help the young man and his family out. Most definitely, man. What a great week we had. Of course, I mentioned earlier, President Barack Obama visiting McKinley High School, which is my alma mater, Thursday, January the 14th, and I had the privilege to be there, man, and it was just the energy was in the building. But before I go into my recap and my thoughts of that, I'm going to play the song of the day, and this is the way we was feeling back in 2008. Check this out right here. Yeah. Look.
Oh, in the video, they had a big old Steve Wilkos looking dude at the very end. Oh,
yes,
man.
indeed. Hey, man, so that's kind of like the way I felt, proud to be an American. And it just really, with me, it's just the energy that he brought. Not because I'm, don't get me wrong, it's not about, people ask me about comparing it to and how actually was it. And I said that I kind of compared it to being, around a rock star or seeing someone famous, at a concert, and you're all, in awe of that person. But it was a little bit more than that to it, because when I thought about it, comparing it, I was like, well, like Jay-Z or somebody like that, you can pretty much go and see them when you want to, if you really want to see them, and they go on tour so much. But with him, it was like that magnified a little bit more, because this is more historical. It's a famous person, it's a celebrity type person, but it's also something that not a lot of people get a chance to do, and it's a once in a lifetime.
It really is.
And right, you know what I mean? So, that's what's like the significance of it. It was just the energy in the room, everybody collective, knowing and realizing the historical. This is a historical moment, and so having that anticipation, and for him to come out and not be the way, not be arrogant or not have just an aura about him to seem like, he was, unreachable, or he was like acting like an elitist or something like that. He was just like a guy's guy, like, hey, man, what's up?
That's what real leaders do, man.
Right. And I can see why he was elected. I can see why people take to him. I can see his gifts, and his gifts are definitely motivation and inspiration. He's definitely a inspiration when he speaks, and so you can just see that now. It's something to see it up close and personal. I wanted to ask Coach, and Coach is living in Washington D.C. At the moment. Have you ever met the president? I don't think we ever talked about that, and I just wanted to know that. Or have you ever been in his presence or any of the?
We had dinner last night. No,
I'm going to say, wow.
No, man, I have not. And, Joker, that was a tremendously emotional day for McKinley High graduates around the world.
Yes.
And, I'm trying to get work done, and I can't even relate to these people up here because they don't comprehend the passion that we have for our alma mater,
Right.
and what we've gone through at that institution. And for President Obama and the administration to select that school permanently endears him to that community. It was just tremendous forethought to select McKinley High. And, again, jokingly, it's like, where else would he have gone? He's the first African-American president. McKinley is clearly the first African-American school for high school education in Louisiana. It was just a really good fit. And hopefully there will be some I guess, behavior adjustments from some of the folks that had a chance to experience that. Maybe they will look at themselves differently and see themselves in a different light moving forward.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing that I think comes away from this, that I take away from this, exactly what you said. I'm seeing that already, like on Facebook, just in the neighborhood, because I'm from that neighborhood. I grew up literally 500 feet from McKinley, right on the same street, right up the street. So it was like, when I was there, the people that didn't make it inside, just the people that was outside. I remember I walked outside after it was over, and we was all still out there. It was like a parade. People was on the streets. And because McKinley, the way it's located inside the middle of a neighborhood, it's not like off of a main street or a big, it's literally in the middle of a neighborhood. And so he had to drive through that neighborhood to get to the school. There's only one street that goes to McKinley. So you have to go through that, down that street. And one guy came out, he lives on the corner, he told me, he said, man, Obama came to pass by my house. And I thought about that. It's a very simple statement, but I thought the significance of that is like, I thought about it. I said, well, you know what? Yeah, it's not like you had to go see his house. to go to the White House.
Right.
You know, who could say the president actually passed in front of my house?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'll tell you,
the
man.
motorcade.
It's just seeing some of the highlights of the news and seeing some of the posts you put on Facebook on Thursday. It reminded me of when we rewind to 2008 when he was first getting started. I remember all the energy that was surrounding this guy, and I remember before Iowa, not taking him too seriously, thinking maybe he's a guy who's prepping himself up. I mean, there had been a lot of hype about him before when he spoke at the 2004 convention, and then I remember when he won Iowa and seeing the energy that surrounded this guy,
That's
and then how it
realized
built
that
on
he
him.
could
Like,
do it.
oh my God, this is a different kind of dude. I've never seen anybody like this before.
Yeah.
And here it is 8 years later. He's grayed a lot and aged like all two-term presidents do after a couple of years, but he still draws that energy from the people around him. There's just some people have a certain je ne sais quoi, magnetism. They know how to lead and bring the most out of the people around them, and that's what I see with this president every time I see him attracting an audience or reaching out to folks.
Right. And policies aside, I want to say this real quick, Coach. Policies aside, I think that when Coach said that hopefully people's behaviors and stuff can change, and I think that is the thing. Mm-hmm. When a person can inspire you to, okay, I don't have to put out a policy to help you. If I can get you, you know, because it starts at home. It starts with me. If I can start my behavior with my fellow man here, then I really don't necessarily need a policy to be, you know, enacted. It starts at home.
Exactly.
And I think that's what he does. He can change a behavior just by his inspiration and his presence. But go ahead, Coach.
Absolutely. And he said that in the town talk, you know, that it's not just him, and he needs us to do more than just vote. Voting is one thing, and yes, he needs that. But he needs you to do more than that. So it is very fitting on this holiday King weekend that we discuss some of the type of things that we can do. And I understand that, you know, King's legacy has been kind of sanitized so that it has now become things like, you know, volunteering to help the community. But, you know, King was a civil disobedience advocate. A civil disobedience advocate. And those are the type of things that we can get involved with. You know, one quote, you know, we always hear the Dr. King, I have a dream quote, but I have a quote here that I want to put out there. We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of unspeakable terrors of police brutality.
Wow. That's what's up, man. And I second that. I also think that, you know, we now, of course, we celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King and everything, but, you know, we knew that when he was here, he wasn't that loved like he is now. And so,
oh yeah, it's always easy to get on any bandwagon, especially that of a national hero after the fact. I look at the folks that were on Ground Zero really risking their lives, their social standings, their reputations. And I'm not saying just black people or white people. I mean, if you were white, you're risking your loss of privilege, so to speak. If you're black, you were risking losing what little you had going to support yourself in those days. And that took, and not to mention your physical safety and everything else that goes with it. I mean, that was real courage, and it wasn't cool and sexy and romanticized the way it is today, and it wasn't easy. And so, you know, it's great that it is.
It definitely wasn't easy. And I also wanted to mention, you know, we had media coverage here at WHYR, and I had questions on deck ready, but actually it was a town hall meeting, so the question was more directly toward the people instead of the media asking direct questions like a press conference type of thing. And so I didn't get to ask the question that I wanted to ask. And people asked me, well, what would you have asked him? I said, well, I would have asked him, you know, with the tension that we see now between the police and the community, especially the minority community, the tension that we see. I've heard about reform, you know, justice reform, about sentencing reform and things like that. But what would you do to suggest bridging the gap between the police and the community? And I think it has to be, we have to have a conciliation. You know, we have to be able to get along, because it's starting to get confrontational. A couple of them are getting murdered, then we're getting murdered. And it's starting to create a us against them.
It's not good for anybody.
It's not good for either one of us. So what would he suggest? You know, that's what I would have asked him, you know. But
And a huge issue in Louisiana is the gerrymandering of districts. And we spoke about that in the State of the Union, but a lot of the elected officials sitting in that state house there in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, would not be there if districts were drawn in a uniformed way.
I agree with you, Perry. You want to talk about. I know you said a minute ago that voting by itself is not enough, and I agree with that. But in this instance, and this is one of those things that I think a lot of people going about their day-to-day lives, who work, pay the bills, put food on the table, might not realize is that the elections that take place in the Congress that's in place when the year ends in zero, for lack of a better term, every 10 years, that is the Congress that draws up districts. And, you might think if it's a non-presidential year, big deal, same old, but no, even those off-year elections are very important for that reason. So, when the year ends in a zero, even if there's not a president being elected, you need to go vote because that's determining what gerrymanders those districts. And the party, we can talk about all this idealistic egalitarian stuff. The bottom line is the party that's in charge is going to draw it to their advantage. So the people who represent your views, you need to make sure you vote them in and don't stay home or don't become disenchanted. And it's easy to do because politicians are politicians, but that is the importance of voting when we talk about that. Make sure you do your best to help put those folks in place and take action to raise awareness of those issues and those candidates to encourage other people to go vote so that your actions when you're not voting translate to votes which do make a difference on that point that Perry makes.
Well, and disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed here is Louisiana All-American Sports do not necessarily express the views of WHYR. We are Louisiana All-American Sports, and we're going to get back to the sports here. Action, we're going to go on up to the Bluffs and talk about them Southern University Jaguars.
Oh, yeah, the Southern Jaguars, they are an interesting hot potato. Southern Jaguars basketball. I'm trying to get the human jukebox going. It's this the human jukebox. Got to push it a little bit or plug it back in the wall. It's not going right. Not going from it. Here we go.
There you go. Where you at?
But anyway, while I'm waiting for the human jukebox to queue up, there's always a delay on Windows Media Player when you open it for the first time. Doggone Windows 10. There we go. The Southern University Jaguars, they are an interesting, and that's really the only word I could use, an interesting team on the hardwood. And in some ways not so interesting. Look, the Jags played, I think, a more difficult than normal schedule for a small mid-major school. They, I think, performed above what would have been the expectations at the start of the year. They won a couple of games people wouldn't expect them to win against Mississippi State and Tulane. They duked it out with teams like Arkansas and La Tech and Memphis, and I think it was a good workout to get them ready for the SWAC season, for the SWAC schedule. And then they went to Texas and got punched in the mouth by Texas Southern and Prairie View, both teams in the Houston metropolitan, not too far from Houston. But those are games on the road. They came back home. They played Grambling. Grambling's another interesting story. I'm keeping my eye on because the Grambling State Tigers have been playing. Usually you can chalk them up as a victory and the last several years, and they've been playing tough. They beat Grambling by a few buckets, faced Jackson State on Monday, and beat them pretty soundly at the F.G. Clark Activity Center. So now, today, the Jags go on the road to Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Here's why I say the Jags were not so surprising in that they lost two conference games away from home. They won their two conference games at home, so they're 2-2 in the SWAC. Now they go away to APB. They also have Mississippi Valley State coming up on Monday. Now the good news for the Jags is if there were ever a chance to take two games on the road, it's never easy to win any game on the road at any level. We saw that last night just with Baker and Port Allen on the Louisiana All-American Sports Game of the Week, Friday at 7 o'clock. But look, they got Arkansas Pine Bluff coming up. APB is, I think, a step down from Southern on paper, off paper, personnel, talent, however you slice it. And Mississippi Valley State is the team that every SWAC school raises their arms in the air and cheers for. Even Arkansas Pine Bluff can't wait to play them, be it in Mississippi or otherwise. I think the Jaguars win both of those games coming up, and I think they win them handily, but that's why they play the games. It's not easy to win on the road. Neither of those games will have television nor radio coming up.
I second everything that you said, Eric. I'm going to go with Southern. They finally was able to get a little bit of a win streak here. They're playing good ball so far, so I'm going to go with Southern University to beat Arkansas Pine Bluff and Mississippi Valley State. Go on the road and get those 2 wins.
It's unanimous. Southern wins both of these games easy.
So I'm looking at that. And I'll tell you what else I'm keeping my lazy eye on, if you will. Keep a lazy eye on the Grambling Tigers. They are not the doormats that they've been on the hardwood the last few years. Meanwhile, as we've put a button on Southern University.
On the other side of town, moving quickly, rolling swiftly in the hootie rack.
All the way to southern, more South Baton Rouge. I don't want to say southern. I might get my words mixed up there. But moving to the LSU campus, the LSU Tigers continue to be consistently inconsistent. It's been a pattern with these guys this year. I've come to expect it. They played Florida last week. Perry and I had talked about this on Wednesday. They did exact. If I couldn't have drawn it up any better, I would have thought I must have gone into the future and come back and watch the replay. Watching the Saturday game in Florida, they were competitive, but they shot themselves in the foot, made some undisciplined plays. Of course, the home court. Florida having home court didn't help LSU much, but they just didn't push it over the top, and they lost a competitive game to Florida, but they lost nonetheless before the eyes of the nation. Then came back against Ole Miss, and really they hosted them at home. They had a good team effort. Ben Simmons, I thought, was very good, although his effort didn't necessarily translate to the box score. But I thought Ben Simmons showed his role as a leader, a distributor, a real hustler, and in spite of the fact that Stephon Moody continued to be a thorn in LSU's side as he was last year, just chewing him up, and he's kind of emerged into one of the better scorers in the country. In spite of Stephon Moody putting on a show, LSU maintained control of that game towards the end. So, we're seeing which LSU is going to show up. They have Arkansas coming up. Arkansas is kind of on the upswing. They have an opportunity to return to national prominence. The game is at the PMAC tonight. It will be on the SEC network and also on 98.1 FM on the radio. This is a test. I think it's one of those games that will be 50-50 at a neutral site, but I think LSU is going to play up. They are at home. I think the home court is going to be the difference in this game. I think we'll see good LSU coming up on Saturday. Conversely, we have going to Texas A&M, and Texas A&M, if you haven't been watching, is really starting to rise in the polls. They're very quietly kicking butt and taking some names, but they have to go to Reed Arena at College Station. That game on Tuesday will be on ESPN, also on 98.1 FM, the Eagle. I think LSU kind of slips back to its old patterns when they go on the road. So I'm expecting them to win a very competitive game tonight against Arkansas and to drop one on the road at Texas A&M.
I think LSU is on the uprise. I think they're on their way up. I want to give a shout-out to Ben Simmons, not because of his play at Ole Miss, and they had a great win at home against Ole Miss, coming back in the second half, actually, and grinding that game and winning that game at the end. But I want to give Ben Simmons a lot of he changed my view of him. I saw him at McKinley High. He was there to hear the president speak. I would have thought that more LSU players would have came, but this guy is actually from Australia, and he came and he was interested in hearing him speak, and so that showed me a lot about him and about his character and his upbringing. I just want to give him a shout out, Ben Simmons, and good luck to you, man, moving forward. I got LSU winning both of these games. This guy is starting to come into his own. It takes a while for him to get acclimated to this team, and I think now LSU is on the rise, so I'm going with LSU to win both of the games.
Oh, wow. I'm going to say that they're going to beat Arkansas and they'll lose on the road to Texas A&M. Also in SEC news, South Carolina, the University of Alabama defeated previously undefeated South Carolina 73-50. Johnson is starting to get that team to play.
And they whooped South Carolina's butt. Whooped their butts on Wednesday night. That's interesting. Old Coach Avery Johnson. Also, real quick, speaking of Avery Johnson, of course, he's a Southern University alum. I overlooked this, but Willie Quinn was. I want to get this right because he was awarded, here it is, the 2015 College Football Players Association, CFPA, I think it's, College Football Preference Award. college. Let me try this one more time. College Football Performance Award. He was awarded the 2015 College Football Performance Award for kick returner, so congratulations to Willie Quinn, the senior. I think this guy has a real shot to make an NFL roster, maybe even a 53-man roster in the fall, but certainly I think he'll be cashing a paycheck from an NFL team. This young man's he's got it when it comes to getting his hands on that ball and moving around in space. But look, we've talked about our expectations. We talk about what we expect to see, and of course we have a lot of fun with it. And so, of course, that brings us up to
who was right?
Who was right and who was wrong in this week's edition of I Told You So.
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? 'Cause I told you. And when did I tell you? A long time ago. And what did I say will happen when I told you? Exactly what just happened.
He might want to come on in because this year, this Grambling team seems to have a pulse. Now, they're coming to the F.G. Clark Activity Center. I think I'm not going to let the eye test deceive me. Southern lost 2 games on the road to quality opponents in Texas. I think they're going to take out that frustration. I think they're going to clobber Grambling today. But
yeah!
See, I have to pick Southern in this game just on principle alone. Just because the professor is with Grambling. So
Southern should win this game more easy.
the Jaguars have JSU coming up also in the F.G. Clark Activity Center and the Avery Johnson Coy. I think Jackson State is playing really well, and I think they catch Southern slipping on Monday.
Well, I'm going with Southern in this game.
So, I'm going to go with Southern hesitantly on this one. Just because they're at home, that's my thinking the advantage.
They have Florida today in their first matchup against Florida since Billy the Kid left for Oklahoma City in the NBA. And I'm going to tell you something, man. They have a chance to beat Florida today. For that reason, as far as picking the game, I'm going to pick the University of Florida, even though I think LSU has a little more talent and momentum going. But
I think LSU is starting to come around a little bit. So I'm going to go with LSU in this game.
Keep the momentum going and pull out a victory in Florida. I'm hesitantly saying that.
I have a lot of confidence that LSU will pull the win out over Ole Miss regardless.
So I expect them to beat Ole Miss also.
Yes, I'm with you. I think they beat Ole Miss regardless of what happens this month.
I picked Clemson. I started out picking Alabama, of course.
Nick Saban, I'm sorry. Nick Saban, you're the best.
And I got an epiphany. You know what? I'm going unconventional. I'm going to stick with my pick. I'm going with a dynamic player, Deshaun Watson, and I'm going with him to single-handedly win the national championship, and it will happen. The Clemson Tigers will win.
You know, Joker, there's a reason that sometimes you go with the grain. For example, if this building caught fire, the conventional wisdom going with the grain would be to get out of the building as quickly as possible. But I expect a decisive Alabama victory. So I got to go with the grain and with Coach Saban and run out of the building that's on fire.
The money is lining up for Alabama to come out with a W here. So I think there are some things in work. I'm going to go with Clemson.
I'm going to take the Packers in that game over the Americans.
I'm going with the Americans, actually.
So I am going to give a tip to the Washington racial slurs.
This is a coin toss. Kansas City's favorite. I think Vegas has them by like 3 points or 7 points or something. I'm going to pick the Chiefs, but don't be. I hope Andy Reid brought his A game. That's all I'm going to say. I hope he brought his A game because you're not just going to go to NCR Stadium and slap the Texans around, not with that defense.
I think the Kansas City Chiefs, man. I'm definitely going to pick them. But I'm going with Kansas City.
I'm going to go with Kansas City as well.
Picked on Andy Dalton for years and years and years. They're about to see how valuable Andy Dalton is to that team when he does not suit up tonight and A.J. McCarron gets the ball. So I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'm going with Cincinnati Bengals in this game.
So I'm going to go with Cincinnati here.
Seattle walks all over Minnesota tomorrow.
Very, very hard for Seattle to pull out. I'm going to go with Seattle.
I'm going to go with the Vikings here.
Come on, baby.
I told you so.
Here we go. By the way, for those of you who are fans of the show, The Boondocks, while I could definitely not play the original song, check out the. Oh, come on! Y'all keep going for 1 second, Joker. I gotta deal with something here real quick.
Well, when you find, go ahead, Coach.
Go ahead, Joker.
Well, I was just going to say that speaking on, we was talking about LSU and Ben Simmons, and also was talking about Willie Quinn. I want to speak on Willie Quinn. I think he will make the NFL. Speed kills when a player that's that dangerous. Kind of reminds me a little of Holiday with LSU. A smaller guy.
Good example.
A smaller guy, but has Olympic speed. I don't know if Willie Quinn is as fast as Holiday, as Trenton Holiday, but he's definitely as an elusive, and he's a great punt returner. So I think what do you think, Coach?
Well, that is the way to make it into the NFL through special teams. They advocate that if you are a marginal player, that is the way that you can stick around and get a paycheck. So with him already having that training, special teams training, yes, he has a very good shot of ending up on someone's roster.
Right. I mean, we can take a second and recap. What do we think about the national championship game between Alabama Crimson Tide and the Clemson Tigers? And let me first meditate and get to exercise myself. Nick Saban, you're the best. Nick Saban, I'm sorry. Because I am sorry. I try to go against the grain, Coach, me and Coach, we went against the grain this time. But I thought Clemson played an excellent game. I thought they did whatever they wanted to do. If Deshaun Watson passed for over 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, what else can you ask from a player? But I thought Alabama's ability to hit big plays, with Lane Kiffin. I got to give Lane Kiffin a lot of credit. He's not the most likable guy,
right,
but this guy knows football and knows offense, and he had special type plays. And Nick Saban for being the best, being able to not, to conform, to evolve and change. Alabama's playing the spread. They got trick plays. And, for him to be able to let go of that control and be able to, that just showed the greatness of him. And he out-coached Dabo Swinney. And it just, he was just out-coaching. What else can you say? He's the best ever.
Clearly out-coached him. Mm-hmm. Let me say that, the fixer did his job.
That's right. They covered the spread. That's right.
Yeah, also that number 76, that tackle for Alabama, he cashed his check. Every time Alabama dropped back to throw a ball, he couldn't make a block. Even on one of the touchdowns, he tackled a guy on the touchdown, and they didn't call it. So, what the Sixers did not take into account was the intellect and genius of Nick Saban, who we may be watching the greatest football coach in the history of college football, and we need to appreciate that.
Okay, so while we're efforting I told you so that we're looking like we're having some kind of a problem with the media player, we're just going to skip ahead. First of all, I'd like to remind you guys that in 11 minutes we have coming up on Louisiana All-American Sports, we have Noel Jackson with Music Satisfaction here on 96.9 FM WHYRLP, Baton Rouge Community Radio. But anyway, we've talked about the high school game, we've talked about the young up-and-coming men, and now it's time to talk about the gladiators, the full-grown men of the National Football League. Let's try that again. The National Football League. There we go. So look, we had some really good playoff games last week.
Yeah, it's going down.
Some classics. There was some joy and pain, if you will, depending on which side of the spectrum you fell on. The Kansas City Chiefs went to Houston and slapped the Texans all around. They've traveled to Foxborough, Massachusetts to face the New England Patriots. That's at 3:35 our time on CBS. You know, the AFC really is a crapshoot. I can make better arguments for why all four teams should lose than for why any of the four teams should win the AFC. New England, as good as they've been, they limped into the playoffs. Rob Gronkowski did not practice on Thursday. He had an MRI at the hospital, had a pain shot. I don't know exactly what it was, but we know Gronk's kryptonite is he can be a little fragile. On top of that, Sebastian Vollmer, the fine tackle for New England, they don't know whether or not he'll play. New England doesn't really have a running game to begin with. Right now, they have Steven Jackson slated to start, and if you saw him play, yeah, he wasn't even on. He was at home eating Cheetos and reading the newspaper like Willie Beeman.
Play for San Antonio Spurs.
No, I'm talking about
Steven Jackson.
Steven Jackson, who probably might have a shot at the Hall of Fame from his efforts with the Rams.
What, the Los Angeles Rams?
The soon-to-be LA Rams.
Oh,
but he was on his couch like Willie Beeman in any given Sunday eating Cheetos and reading the newspaper in December when the Patriots suddenly needed a running back, and he's going to be the one playing. They have no running attack at all. But Kansas City, on the other hand, they have Jeremy Maclin injured. Here's my prediction. I think the Patriots, it's just hard to go against them. You got to show me that you got to beat these guys. But I'll say as much. If Sebastian Vollmer does not play and Rob Gronkowski does not finish the game, I think Kansas City beats them at home. But otherwise, notwithstanding that which would be a catastrophe for Patriots fan, I think New England wins that game.
So you're going with the dimple in the chin?
Well, I'm a dimple in the chin, yeah.
Okay, man, it's hard to go against dimple in the chin. Man, but I cannot overlook. See, you know, a lot of times we get caught in history. We get caught at what Tom Brady and not look at what a team is as of right now. As of right now, Kansas City has won 11 straight games. They started out 1-5, and they've won 11 straight games. If you win 11 straight games in the NFL, you are a good team to me. Even though they lost their running back early in the year, but they gelled as a team without him. The
Spencer Ware's helped fill that plug that hole
exactly.
too.
And so the team that they have on the field now plays very, very well together. I would bet you if their running back came back, they would play different. Their team right now, I'm going to predict that they're going to beat New England today. Their defense and the way that they get after the quarterback. Tom Brady had a lot of trouble with Miami last week, and they had their offensive line has been struggling. I'm gonna go with the upset pick, even though it doesn't look right. Even though Kansas City is no way they're supposed to beat it, but I'm going with Kansas City. I just got to go with what I'm looking at.
I'm going with New England.
Well, that was
all that explaining. At the end of the day, it is Tom Brady. That's basically what Coach said.
I definitely understand. Go ahead, Coach.
Not so much Tom Brady, it's the coach.
It's Belichick. Yeah, right.
And Belichick does find ways. I'll tell you what. I mentioned the running game and how weak it had been this year, but Belichick finds guys off the street, or I don't know if he goes to the Irish pubs and finds.
That's what give me pause.
He gets guys out of nowhere who come out of nowhere and start running the ball.
It does give me pause. So we know Andy Reid's track record in the playoffs, but you know, and the Chiefs have done this before, and you know they've won and looked good, and then come into the playoffs. But I don't know. I'm going with the Chiefs on this one. The next one is the one we're going to predict is going to be the hardest one. That's going to be we're going to predict all four of them. We're going to talk about
yeah. We got the time, yeah.
Oh,
well, let's go in chronological order. We also have the Green Bay Packers and Arizona Cardinals. That is tonight on NBC. And let me tell you, man, that game. Look, Arizona has it set up on a tee. You have a Green Bay team. Granted, they stepped their game up last week against Washington, but Green Bay still hasn't quite looked right, and I think without Jordy Nelson, it just knocks that offense down a peg. The defense played well against Washington in the second half of last week, but I just, look, if everyone stays healthy, I think this is Arizona's opportunity, but Aaron Rodgers showed a flash of the old Aaron Rodgers. Not a flash, he played the whole game as the old Aaron Rodgers. That being said, I cannot go against these Cardinals until somebody actually beats them, especially at home, but this is really the toughest one I had to meditate on, so to speak, to pick. I'm going with the Cardinals, but this should be a great game. NBC picked the right one.
Well, this was an easy pick for me. This is a no-brainer. This is Arizona, the best defense and secondary. Aaron Rodgers, even though he won, he only threw for 200 yards last week. This is really a no-brainer. This was one of the easier games for me to call Arizona all day long.
Yeah, despite Tyrann Mathieu not being able to play, Yeah, I still think the Cardinals should win this game.
And yeah, they just punished them a couple of weeks ago.
Oh yeah, talk about a hurting. Yeah, they did, but regular season and postseason could be a different story. I don't know yet. It's going to be.
Got a feeling.
Exactly. It's one of those things. I think Arizona's just proven has proven the longevity test all year. And now to Joker's point though is we have the Seattle Seahawks and they're going to go at 12 o'clock on Sunday to Charlotte, South Carolina to face the Carolina Panthers, and we've been waiting this all year. Joker has really kind of been a proponent of two teams all year. The Seattle Seahawks, understandably so, as they are the two-time defending NFC champions, and of course the Carolina Panthers, who of course have the probable MVP of the league. Oh, Cam. And so with Cam Newton against Russell Wilson, Seattle got escaped by the skin of their teeth. But you know what? When you win a playoff game on the road, it ain't like fishing. You don't throw the little ones back. And frankly, I thought Seattle outplayed Minnesota most of that game. It was kind of fitting that the football gods literally pulled the rug from under the kicker, Blair Walsh, and also his holder in that game. But I tell you, man, Seattle is just playing as well as anybody's been playing football right now. I don't like Seattle as a fan. My fanhood's pretty clear. And actually, I've always liked Cam Newton and as far as the division rival goes, I don't hate the Carolina Panthers being a Saints fan. I want Cam to win. I just think Seattle's got everything's going their way right now, and even the intangibles and the dumb luck is going their way. So I think this 15-1 season that the Panthers have had comes to an uninspiring and early end at the hand of the two-time defending NFC champion Seattle Seahawks. I'm through grinded teeth going with the Seahawks in this game.
Wow, Seahawks. This has been the game that's I've been torn. I wanted to flip up a coin. I like both of these teams. And what it boiled down to me was I picked Seattle to go to the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. That was my prediction here in Louisiana All-American Sports. But Russell Wilson has a championship. I like Cam. I'm going to have to go with Cam in this game at home, reluctantly, but I'm going to go with Cam.
Whoa, Cam.
That's because I'm dabbing right now. And, Cam is what's up. He's the MVP of this year, and I'm rolling with Cam.
Carolina.
So Coach is going with the Carolina Panthers in this game. So that's...
We got Denver and Pittsburgh, too. That'll be the last game, right?
Denver and Pittsburgh, and this is another one where I've often said you can almost pick either team to lose this game. I mean, it's you have two teams that really are limping in. Pittsburgh is just, I'll tell you, they got Cincinnati gave that game away last week, but Cincinnati beat them up on the way out the door. You have Antonio Brown will not play because of a concussion. You have Ben Roethlisberger, who is, in my opinion, the toughest quarterback of his of his time. But I don't know if he's going to be able to overcome this because he was literally pieced together with duct tape in that last game, banged up. And I'm leaving out another player. The running back got knocked out of the game. I believe. Jonathan Stewart got banged up, I think knocked out by Burfict also. They're going to Mile High. Peyton Manning looks more like Peyton Mallard with those wounded duck passes he's been throwing, but he's still Peyton Manning. Denver, although notwithstanding quarterback, they are extremely solid on every other position, especially on defense. For that reason and because they're at home, I'm going to pick the Mallard and the Denver Broncos. But man, that's a game of some battered and bruised teams.
Hey, I'm going with Denver. Home field advantage, Peyton Manning.
I'm going to take the Steelers here.
Wow, good pick.
So,
man, we're right at the end of the show, man. Man, times fly when you're having fun. This was a presidential edition of the Louisiana All-American Sports Show. I want to give a shout-out to my new friend, Jamie. I'll see you when I get out there. She wanted to thank the president, too, for the Obamacare. So big shouts out to Jamie.
Yeah. These are real people that are benefiting. You have all these haters talking about the president, this, that, and the other, but when real folks benefit, that tends to calm the noise down. Look, I told you so. We'll be posting to the Louisiana All-American Sports page. We had a problem opening the media, but you got to hear this one. It's a dandy. So keep checking.
So let me share with you that January the 2nd, we lost a community shero in the conscious community.
Yes.
Francis Cress Welsing, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, author of the ISIS Papers,
yes,
author of The Key to the Colors, has transitioned at the age of 80 So we just want to mention that she's done so much for the community and our consciousness that we would be remiss if we didn't mention that.
That's right, Dr. Frances Cress West.
Well,
Yeah, love you.
have a good afternoon.
Peace out, everybody.
Hail to the king. Hail to the king. And lords of lords. May he protect us from the evil. Hail to the king. Lords of lords. May he protect us